Know why it's all dark. You know, he's really annoying me this morning, guys. Really on the edge of the seat right now.
No one cares about your drama.
Whatever. If the video's dark, I'm sorry. I have no idea why.
Yeah, is the video dark?
I don't know. Somebody should tell us. But we don't have any live viewers yet, so come on, Jessica, get on there. There we go. Who is that? Brad. Brad, is the video dark? We can't tell.
I'm texting Jessica to ask her. I'll wave. I can wave to these people, I think.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. It said something...
Not dark.
Not
okay,
dark.
Good.
Okay, good.
It
Thanks,
looks like
Brad.
it on our end. So.
All right. Yeah, anyway, I can't see Nicole's screen. Oh, you probably hit the volume thing or whatever when it was on when you're in settings and turn the brightness down.
No, I don't think so.
All right, well, anyway, we'll get to the show. Even though we can't look at ourselves, we'll be okay. So, welcome to Friday, the Nicole and Craig show. As always, I'm Craig.
And I'm Nicole.
And we've got a cool show we're really excited about. It's 5 strange things that can happen in a transaction and how to handle them. It sounded like very, and how to handle them. It sounded really prepared.
He's very newsworthy this morning.
Sorry, guys, we can't read any of the responses or anything because Nicole's camera or Nicole's iPhone is all messed up.
I was going to see if I could change the brightness, but I don't know how to. Can we make the right side dark so we can only see Nicole? Yes, I can make that happen, Brad. I couldn't read it till I was up there.
It hurts. Whatever. Okay, so let's get right to it because, people don't like to waste a lot of time. It is Friday morning.
Everybody likes to hear me pick on you because it's their favorite part of the show, they tell me.
All right, well, get it out of your system then.
I don't have anything now because I had to call it out. That's not how that works.
Yeah, what you guys didn't see, we really need to record the planning for the show. Like, I think that would be a more entertaining show than this show actually is. But in the planning show, basically Nicole throws out a bunch of ideas that we cannot use, that are just ridiculous. And then that helps me in the creative process get to where we have a great show for the day. So that's how it works.
Or we brainstorm with the whole team that's at the office and we kind of decide what we're going to do and have them help us do the show.
Yeah.
One of those. Really not Craig's ideas.
The whole team up here. I think Nicole wrote 3 shows out of like 60-something.
So not true.
Yeah, and it was 2 weeks in a row, so she was like, strutting around like a peacock, like, I'm so much better than you, Craig. Look, I wrote 3 shows.
Okay, who believes me and who believes Craig about how that works? I'm pretty sure the votes are going to be me because they all know you better than that.
Yeah, they know me better than that, so they're just, be nice to you. Okay, let's just get to number 5 right now. Okay, our antics are annoying me. So.
What?
You're the
one that normally says it.
Okay, yeah, that's right. Number 5. I already did it.
Know your place.
Know my place. It's the Nicole and Craig show. You should be doing more of this. Okay, repairs are not done when you go and do the final walkthrough. It's a nightmare. What do you do, Hanson? What do you do?
It's the worst. We try to stop this.
It's not the worst, but
it kind of is.
It's bad.
It's bad.
Sucks.
It's not very much fun.
No.
We kind of try to head this off with our inspection responses in the beginning by saying if we have any kind of licensed contractors do it, that they have to turn a receipt 7 days before closing, right? So as long as you get the receipts, most of the time that's going to be cool. But sometimes that doesn't always happen. So we get to find a walkthrough and let's say a cellar repair or something wasn't done. The first call I immediately call a listing agent.
Yeah,
you find something that's not done. Hey, sink's still leaking, door wasn't replaced, whatever it is. And normally they'll immediately talk to the seller and then it's kind of negotiation. It depends upon how severe the repair is as to what you have to do. It can be to the point where you have to push off closing.
Yeah, if it's something big, sometimes it's better to not close. Yeah. Unfortunately, if the seller didn't meet all their obligations and like I said, depending on the repair, I would never do it over like a temperature relief valve on a water heater or an outlet that wasn't tripping properly or something like that. I mean, and that could be even a bigger electrical problem anyway. But anyway, you have to kind of figure it out. And like Nicole said, I think it's good to request receipts for repairs that need to be done by professionals and stuff like that. So you kind of know throughout the process. I normally will reach out to the listing agent and just ask them, hey, are all the repairs done? So usually this, you can kind of keep keep track of it better.
And there's nothing wrong with doing like a repair walkthrough and then doing a final walkthrough right before closing. So you get all your receipts in at 7 days before, you go do the walkthrough, make sure the repairs are done, or bring the inspector back to check them, right? And then, you walk through again before closing. We had one recently that dishwasher just didn't work. It wasn't in the inspection that it didn't work, but they were testing appliances as they were going through the final walk right before closing, and it stopped working.
And I would say if you think you have a buyer that might want to ask for that, I would put that into the inspection response also, that you're going to do another walkthrough once repairs are complete, in addition to the final walkthrough.
Yeah, for sure.
And let me ask you this as a bonus question, Nicole. When do you recommend your clients do their final walkthrough?
I normally do it as close to closing as possible.
I was hoping that was going to be a trick question. You were going to not say that.
No.
But she did. What a professional.
I do. I normally do it as close to closing as possible. So if it's like a 9 a.m. and they can't do first thing in the morning the night before, especially in the winter time around here, you absolutely want to do it probably as close as you can. To make sure the seller got all their stuff out, and that, if you're doing possession at closing, you want to make sure there's not a bunch of trash left in the house, which we have had recently too. Just to make sure that everything's okay with the property.
That's a good point, and that's another thing, like sometimes all the personal property is not removed. Things like paint cans, old tires, things like that, you can't just throw away in the garbage. Old car battery, stuff like that. Can't just...
Like large curio cabinets and stuff, that's one that gets left a lot.
Yeah.
Because they're heavy and hard to move.
Yeah, so make sure your buyer's okay with that, and, sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. But just let them know. Sometimes it's a pain in the butt. I've had to buy dumpsters before for people that left too much stuff there, to have stuff removed. Some municipalities will do like hazardous material disposal days.
Yep.
And basically it's a lot of weight to leave with the buyer, when they're closing on the house and they want to be all excited about it. And then all of a sudden now they got to deal with a bunch of old tires and stuff. I mean, who's keeping old tires anyway? I don't know.
And when it comes down to that, it may be a negotiating on the closing table. I had one a few months ago where I asked title, do you have time? And they said yes. And I said, well, we're not closing this transaction until we can figure out what we're going to do with the 6 mattresses, the 3 large furniture items, and whatever else.
And I would say, just as a good standing rule, if you are going to, threaten not closing or something like that because an issue's not done, I would usually recommend to my client that they need to seek legal advice too, or I recommend they seek legal advice, because we can't instruct someone or advise someone to break a contract.
Yeah.
Even though the other party, in our opinion, may have already broken the contract. But we're not judges. There's no real estate court. Well, actually, there probably is.
Yeah, it's
just called court. But anyway, okay, so let's move on to number 4. This one is probably more likely, but let's say you're getting close to closing. Let's say you're a week before closing, and you get that call from the lender. Sorry, buyer's being declined. I had a buyer get fired the day before closing one time, and that threw it all off. Yeah.
And we've had a couple of those this week. They got let go, or they transferred jobs and they didn't tell anybody. What the buyers don't realize is, they're going to do an employment verification, like the day before or the day of closing. Like, you can't hide job changes and things from the lender. Just say it up front so that we can fix whatever the issues are. Yeah.
But what do you do? Buyer got denied financing.
Well, you rip that Band-Aid off. That's what I tell my agents. Like, it's not fun, but putting off the bad information that you have to give to the other side is only going to make it worse and make you stress about it and stuff. You got to call, tell them they got denied financing, and be prepared for what the other agent is going to say. Be prepared and let your buyer know, or buyer, I guess in this case, that, you're going to have a denial letter from the lender, that kind of stuff. And all you can do is be as empathetic with the other agent as you can. There's not a whole lot else you can do. Yeah, and if you're let's say you represent the seller and, another agent's buyer, I always tell my seller, hey, look, it's such an it's so rare that kind of thing happens, but when it does happen, make it fast. Get your house back on the market, get the mutual release signed, don't play any games with the buyer's earnest money. They got a legitimate denial letter. Unfortunately, it happens sometimes. Yeah. It is rare, but it does happen.
Yeah. I've not seen a lot of them. And I did actually, and here's another thing too. Sometimes it's good to work closely with your lender, because I had one time where a guy got fired. Before we issued the denial letter, though, he got another job from a competitor, in the same field and everything, and then the lender was able to still close. I don't remember if we went another month or not. I don't think we did.
You would probably, because you'd have to have pay
No, I
stubs
think
to show.
I think they had to. Yeah, the new employer had to submit something in writing saying like, hey, yeah, this is what we're going to pay them this much, and that I believe that did work. I think that one did still close on time.
Yeah.
But we found out more than a week before. It was right around that. 2 weeks before closing time or something like that.
I'm always the person. I'm like the scrapper. I'm never going to give up until I know for sure that the deal is dead. So if they denied financing, I'll try. If the buyer allows it, I'll try to find out why. And if it's something I could save, like Craig was talking about, then you save it. If you can't, then you can't.
Yeah, don't be that agent trying to hold together a deal that's not going to work. Sometimes you can try, depending on what they got turned down for. Maybe you can try another lender occasionally sometimes, but usually most of the lenders around here are pretty good. And if it's not going to work, it's not going to work with any of them.
Yeah, so if it's like a big bank like Fifth Third, you might be able to try like a mortgage broker or mortgage lender, whatever, and see if you can get somewhere that way.
Yep. Okay. I think we did that one pretty good. Now we're going to move on to number 3. Our third tip is, now this one I've had this happen maybe once, but your client stops responding to you.
Always fun.
That is so weird.
It is so weird. Normally, you get a few days and the client doesn't respond to you. That's one thing, but it hits a week, then 10 days, maybe a couple weeks. Now you're like, okay, the appraisal needs to be done, or you need to start getting closing stuff. Now, like, what do you do?
You know what? It's a tough one. You have to, from like a license law standpoint and things like that, if you try mailing a letter, and keep records of all this stuff too, by the way, maybe even send a certified letter, you email, text, call, leave messages, if you've tried all those ways, hopefully there's nothing too wrong, like they're in the hospital or something horrible or something like that. But as long as you've made every attempt to do that, you're kind of doing your job. But here's where it gets weird. At what point do you notify the other broker?
Right.
Because most likely
that's the tough part.
Yeah, and that is a tough one. We're talking about during a transaction, not necessarily like you were showing houses to someone.
During a transaction.
Guess what? If your buyer stops talking to you and they weren't under contract, guess what? They got another realtor. I mean, that's pretty much that's probably the reality of it. So your client stops responding to you. You might try their lender if it's a buyer. You might say, "Hey, have you heard from this buyer? I don't know what's going on with them."
If it was a referral, you might ask their, who referred them, if they'd heard from them, that kind of thing. I think the big thing is, it comes down to a couple options. The client doesn't want the house anymore, or the client doesn't want to sell if it's a seller, or they've had some kind of major life change, whether it be a death in the family, they're in the hospital, something. That's a lot of the times why they stop responding. I have, like Craig said, I've worked with lenders before and said, hey, have you heard from so-and-so? Because I have not been able to get a hold of them. And so using the avenues that you have, because remember, your purchase agreement says that you can basically get a hold of them literally any way you can. Like some of the things that Craig said, calling, texting, emailing, writing letters, whatever. We've had a lender contact the employer before and said, hey, we need you to come back to us. I mean, so, there's all kinds of ways you can try to get them to contact you.
Boom. Number 2. Messy divorces. These are the worst.
Yeah.
Actually, all these 5 things really are kind
not
of the
so
worst.
much fun. Yeah.
They're all the worst. When you have that going on at that time, it's the worst.
Yeah.
Messy divorce. Okay, let's take this in a couple different bites. First is during the listing time. Like you've got them under contract as a listing. Usually, in my experience with divorce cases, one party still lives in the house.
Yeah.
And I explained that this is another one of those things where Nicole and I talk all the time about you have to set the correct expectation. Mm-hmm. And up front, I tell them both with the divorces because usually they both want to like tell you their side and get you on their side so you know that they're the right one and the other one's the bad party. I tell them right up front, listen, I'm not a marriage counselor. I'm divorced myself, so clearly I don't have it all figured out. But definitely, I'm going to email both of you at the same time. You're all going to get the same information. I'm not choosing a side, all that kind of stuff. Like, I'm very clear about that. And I've done, unfortunately, I mean, divorce is, unfortunately, it's kind of common nowadays, but I've done a lot of them. Or I've done a lot of transactions like that where I just tell them, hey, look, I'm going to communicate with both of you at the same time. And I think that helps.
I think that's the best way to do it, because if you don't and one party knows something over the other, not so much fun.
Yeah.
But we've also had it where they're selling their home and you think they're all happy, and then in the middle of it, they decide they're going to get a divorce. So then that becomes, an issue where you have to think about what, did somebody actually file? If somebody filed, then you guys actually, you have to go through the legal things. What title is going to need from them? Making sure they have that separation of assets agreement filed. Hey, you guys got to talk to your attorneys and let me know where you want to go with the listing and whatnot. So
that is really good. If they do file for divorce during the listing time, you do want to find out which, if they have a divorce attorney or how they're going to handle that. And then you want to make sure that the divorce attorney knows that the house is for sale and how that's going to be handled. Sometimes when it's really fresh like that, it could be contentious. Is that a good word for that? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. They could be fighting. And you don't want to get in the middle of that, obviously. So that's not our expertise. We just can sell property. That's about it.
Right.
Yep. During a closing, I've had it to where we had to separate the parties in separate rooms in the closing.
Yeah.
The title companies aren't huge fans of that, but they're less excited about people fighting at the table. And again, I always feel like the closing should be about the buyers and the sellers.
Yes. And
you don't want, personal feelings. Sometimes people go really off the rails during a divorce, because their feelings are hurt. It sucks.
Well, the one thing I want to say about that, though, is remember, if they are split in different rooms, you do represent both parties. You're signing with the one in the one room, you go to the other room and sign with the other one.
Yep.
It's not that you just get to sit in one room and do that. I have seen an agent do that before, and I was very disappointed in that because I felt like it didn't meet basically fiduciary responsibility. Like, you represent both, and you need to sit there with them in the closing table on each side to make sure they understand what's going on.
Yeah. You can clone yourself or maybe FaceTime it from the other room.
No.
Or be fair and just don't show up to either one, right?
Oh, yeah,
no,
sure. You
gotta
lose your
okay.
license.
All right. We're good with messy divorce?
Yeah, that kind of depressed me on this Friday.
Yeah, right? Okay, well, this one's going to be fun. We are going to get so excited and happy about the last one. Our number one thing that happens is, and every realtor knows, let's say you're 3 days after closing, or your buyer just got possession to the house that you sold them or they bought, whatever. You see them on the phone. Uh-oh, they're calling me right now. And you think, my heart just drops.
Yep.
Something's wrong with the house. Issues after closing. What do, Hanson? You get that call, my water, I'm trying to take a shower. I just bought the house and the water's cold. What do, Hanson?
So normally the first thing I do is think, was this something that was supposed to be repaired on an inspection, right? So if it's something that I know was supposed to be repaired on an inspection, I may then go back to the listing agent if I have the buyer and say, hey, Mr. Smith took a shower, the water is not working, this was supposed to be repaired at closing, what does the seller want to do about it? Try to be amicable and see if we can come to some sort of a agreement on what's going to be done for something that should have been repaired at closing that probably most definitely wasn't at that point.
Okay, let's say it was not an issue that was found on the inspection.
Then you do your best to empathize with the client, and try to let them know that it is their home now. If they have a home warranty, I'll try to exercise all options that I have, right? So if they have a home warranty, I'll say, hey, here's your home warranty number. Do you have your receipt? Let's give home warranty a call. Let's see if they're going to cover it, that kind of thing. And I just try to empathize and diffuse the situation as much as I can. But it may be to the point where you have to tell them, you own a home now. This is kind of the things that happens, But if they're trying to blame it on the seller, they knew this problem, da-da-da-da. It's one of those things where I try to diffuse it as much as I can and tell them if they really feel that way, then, they probably need to seek an attorney and legal advice.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, is do that. You can always ask your office manager for tips and stuff like that.
Sure.
Any agent that's been around this business for a while has seen this. This has happened, unfortunately. And